I will bring in hockey great, hockey legend, and good friend of the show, Theo Fleury. Thanks for waiting, Theo. Love the hat. How are you today?
Great. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well, Theo. I got a lot of things to get to with you today, but can we start just with a hockey question and the Taylor Hall trade? Our poll question is, does he make them a Stanley Cup contender? How would you answer that?
Did Theo Fleury make the Colorado Avalanche a Stanley Cup contender when he went down there?
Of course. Absolutely.
There you go. I would say yes.
So the answer is yes, yeah.
I don't watch a whole bunch of hockey anymore, but I understand it was a big trade yesterday, and good on the Phoenix Coyotes. I think that for a long time, they've kind of been one of those teams that doesn't have a whole lot of money and has been struggling to put people in the building. So I think it's a great thing for them. And I'm good buddies with Rick Tocchet and Phil Housley, two guys I played with, and so I think it's great that they've turned that thing around down there.
Okay, memory lane time. Now that you bring up you and the Avs, you won me a playoff draft. You went on a hell of a run that spring with the Avs. What do you remember?
Well, it's easy to get points when you're playing on a line with Joe Sakic and Milan Hajduk. So, it was an amazing team. It's unfortunate, we lost to Dallas in Game 7 of the semifinals, and Dallas went on to win their one and only Stanley Cup. So it would have been probably I would have had 2 Stanley Cups if we would have won that last game in Dallas. But Colorado was a great organization. Loved playing with Patrick Waugh and Claude Lemieux and Adam Foote and Peter Forsberg, all those guys. It was a really fun experience.
It's fun that we have people writing in here about Theo talking at the U of R, Break the Stigma Week. And you're like me. We're on to a new life, but nobody wants to talk about our new lives. They just want to talk about our old lives. I feel guilty asking you about the old time, Theo, right now, but you get it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of stigma attached to mental health and addiction, and for the last 10 years, I've been, traveling extensively across North America, trying to put a different spin on it and trying to help people, understand that, those of us who face adversity and face trauma in our lives, we're eventually going to struggle with mental health issues and addiction issues, and it's not something that we're trying to do. It's just a way of us to be able to cope with, the emotional pain and scars that are left behind from, experiencing trauma in childhood and adolescence.
I'm going to ask you about that. We saw you in Delisle, and it was so awesome. And the quote, I used to think of Theo, I would think of you sliding down the ice on your knees with the Flames. And now when I think of you saying, if you're having a crappy day, go help somebody. That's what I think of when I think of you. But we had you lined up to come on during the coaching abuse scandal in hockey, right? And then you had to reschedule. Mm-hmm. You suffered the worst. I'm not going down that road. But when this stuff was coming out with Bill Peters and Babs and stuff, what was going through your mind?
Well, we can play the victim, right? Or we can move ahead and, think about it in a different light. I feel bad for Bill Peters. He made a mistake. And unfortunately, in this woke society that we live in today, we're not allowed to make mistakes. And we are human beings, and we are supposed to make mistakes. That's how we learn. But, we live in a society where we just want to pile on anybody that makes a mistake. And, our prime minister, gets caught wearing blackface, and he's still prime minister of the country, and he still has a job, whereas the hockey world is now paying the price for things that happened in the past. And I know a lot of people are probably going to jump on me coming out with this attitude, but my greatest adversity that I faced in my life is now my greatest strength. And without the experience that I had with Graham James, there is no way that I am doing what I'm doing today. And, so I feel that there are gifts and there are opportunities in our life, and we can, take these opportunities as learning lessons and, and move forward. And, unfortunately, we live in a society where we're a reactive type of society instead of a proactive society. And, obviously the NHL is now forced to put in rules and policies and consequences for, this kind of behavior. But, this lesson has been put in front of us, multiple times, with the start of the Catholic Church, Jerry Sandusky, USA Gymnastics, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, everybody thinks they're immune from this happening to them and their organizations. But, what I've discovered is, abuse and trauma is the biggest epidemic on the planet. And so, we can look at it as, this person is a horrible person, or we can look at it as here's another opportunity that the universe has put in front of us that, we need to learn from. And if we don't learn, it's going to happen again. And I'm guaranteeing you it's going to happen again, in the very near future.
Theo, I'm really glad you said that at the beginning of the answer, because I've been saying this for a while, especially when it comes to the Babcocks, the Peters, these situations that, failing and making mistakes, it's not great and we don't accept it all the time, but it's how we grow and how we learn. And it's so important to allow ourselves to fail, to grow and make mistakes. But if you don't learn from it, and if guys aren't growing and showing that they've made mistakes or aren't sympathetic to that, then I understand. But I think a lot of these guys need to be given the opportunity to change. And, I think that's, we're seeing it with Mark Crawford, right? I mean, the statement that came out from the Blackhawks, clearly he's been taking steps to change. And I hope that people give, just because something happened 20 years ago, see if they've changed and if they've learned from it and grown. And I think we need to have more forgiveness.
Exactly. That's probably the greatest lesson, that I've learned in my life is, and of all places, I learned it, working in the prison system, that, the sort of the baddest dudes on the planet, taught me the two greatest lessons that I needed to learn. And the first one was compassion for all, that everybody has a story and should be afforded the opportunity for people to listen to that story without judgment, without pointing fingers at each other. And then secondly, they taught me about forgiveness. And, when I got to self-forgiveness and forgiveness of, the people that hurt me in my life, there was such a freedom that came over my life that, I can't even explain it, that, the proverbial gorilla, was lifted off my back, and I could just move forward and, live a very happy, healthy, joyful, peaceful, existence.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's funny because I love way back to what you said. You said you feel bad for Bill Peters because he made a mistake. And it's like I said with Babs, I said, I feel sorry for Babs. And people are like, how could you feel sorry for him? What he did to Mitch Marner? And I'm like, I feel bad for the abuser, because it's like, what's making you do this? Right? Yeah. And then like Darren said,
we don't ever ask that question. We just pile on. Because everybody has trauma, okay? Everybody has trauma. And the people who haven't worked on their trauma issues are the ones that pile on to these situations. So my suggestion is go get some healing and then look at that situation in a completely different light and a completely different lens.
That's why I could talk to you forever. And you said the gorilla's off your back. I'll tell you one. Matthew Barnaby loves you. You and Barney good friends now? I mean, you went through the wars against each other, right? How are you with Barney?
Well, we played together in New York.
That's what he said.
We played together in New York, and I was going through probably the most difficult time in my life. And you want to talk about a ultimate team guy. He would do absolutely anything for the team, and he would fight anybody. And he was just I liked him a lot. He was a tough guy, and enjoyed playing a few games with him back in the day.
Well, it's funny because I like the stage of where we're at in life now because everybody's friends now. And the one thing Barney said about you was, he goes, only saw Theo 4 times all year. I said, you played with him. He goes, I know. I only saw him 4 times all year. He was off doing his thing in New York. And then the other one was Grimson. I told him what you said in Delisle about I was in charge of PR for the Moose Jaw Warriors in the 80s. And the whole room's like, what's he talking about? And you're like, I'd call that Ape Grimson something and pack both rinks. Stu thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard.
Well, it was true,
It was true.
I think the Warriors had maybe 4 staff at the time, and I was sick and tired of playing in front of 1,000 people a night. So I thought, geez, here's a great idea. I could say some things in the paper, and sure enough, there was like 4,500 in Moose Jaw. People sitting in the aisles of the crush can. I'm sure the fire marshal was not happy with me. And then we go to Regina, and there was 6,200 in the seats in Regina. So it was a fun time. It was the rivalry between Moose Jaw and Regina was amazing, and I loved playing in those games, and really it got me ready for the Battle of Alberta when I went to Calgary. And I think the biggest reason why I made the team in Calgary was because I played so well against the Oilers, and that was our biggest rival. But more importantly, what was really cool was every night we played in Regina at the old Agrodome there, or the Brandt Center now. I needed a police escort out of the rink to get on the bus because the fans were waiting right beside our bus, waiting to do whatever, yell and scream at me or whatever. So I just said, buy a ticket for next game. Thanks for coming. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. See you next time.
Well, I remember you sliding down the ice in the Flames jersey, but I was also in the rink when you were swinging your stick at that red rail on the Agrodome and crushing guys' fingers that were yelling at you over the rail. It was fun. Why can't we do that anymore?
Oh, boy.
Was it wrong?
We're going back to that woke society now that we live in.
Was it that wrong?
I don't know if it was that wrong. It was just, the era that we lived in and we grew up in, right? We didn't know any better, right?
Right.
We didn't know any better, right? But you know what? When you think about, how we've evolved as a society, right? So, most of the people that coached us or parented us or whatever, were parented by people who, lived through all the world wars, right? And so they were, all traumatized, which caused them to be heavy drinkers and, and all this stuff. And so, I think on a positive note and a positive side here is, we are getting some healing, and we are realizing, maybe the wrongs of the past, and we're trying to change it. And, what people don't understand is it takes time for change to happen and people to, fully take a look at themselves and, find some accountability, make some apologies, make some amends, that kind of stuff. And so, you know, and like I said, you know, these lessons keep appearing, you know, over time, and sometimes we get them, sometimes we don't get them. But, you know, obviously I think the whole Bill Peters incident happened for a reason, and it's, you know, spurred some change by the NHL, and Hockey Canada's got to take a look at themselves too. And, you know, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but at the end of the day, you know, I think we need a little bit more compassion, and I think we need a little bit more understanding, and ultimately, you know, forgiveness, because it's forgiveness that allows us to, you know, move forward.
Well, keep spreading your message for sure, Theo. And I will just ask you one last comment. Monty is watching from Saskatoon. He says, "You are great, Theo. When are you coming to Saskatoon? Do you have anything booked up there?"
Geez, I don't even know. You know what? I do spend a lot of time in Saskatoon, but it's mostly in the Aboriginal community. So, you know, if you go on my website, we have an events tab on my theofleury.life, and it sort of tells where I'm going to be and what I'm going to be doing. So, but I do spend a lot of time in Saskatchewan. I wore my awesome hat today,
Yes, I appreciate it.
as I always do on your show, because you know, I'm a proud member of Saskatchewan, born in Oxbow, and spent a lot of time in Moose Jaw, Swift Current, Saskatoon, Prince Albert, Regina, you know, playing 4 years of junior hockey, which, you know, molded me into the NHL player that I was, but more importantly, it molded me into the person that I am today. And, you know, the Saskatchewan people, you know, I went there as a boy, and, you know, left as a man, and I appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, they're the best here for sure. And I should just say, I don't want to let you go. The North Stars, Battleford's asked me for your contact info. Did they get a hold of you? Have you got anything lined up with the North Stars, or should I check with your girl that does all that stuff for you?
Yeah, you should call Dawn. Why, do they want me to coach?
No, they want you for their sports banquet, I think so.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, anytime Theo's in the area, buy a ticket. Theo, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it, and keep in touch. Merry Christmas.
You too. Continued success with the show. I'm a follower, so it's
good.
Great to see you doing very, very well. Appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.